It's time to let your sports opinions fly for the main event. A 7-team elimination match to decide the District 4 3A Championship. Presented to you live by PilotPointBearcats.com. This 10-week match has been sanctioned by the University of Interscholastic League. Our celebrity referee for the District 4 3A show is none other than the daytime psychology professor, Texas high school football storyteller, North Texas insider, and DFW Inside High School Sports, the most feared member of the Texas high school mafia, the one, the only, small-town Dixie, the professor,
Showtime! From the shadows of South Fork Ranch, just outside of Parker, Texas, it is episode 15 of the District 4 3A Report. And then there were two. I am the Professor, Matt Diggs. Thank you for tuning in to the 15th installment of Season 3 of the District 4 3A Report. And to all of my friends out there, happy Thanksgiving week. We are internally grateful for you and your contribution that you, the listener, makes to this, whether you're liking, subscribing, commenting, or whatever it is you're doing. The District 4 3A Report is powered by PilotPointBearcats.com, and to that end, we like to start out the District 4 3A podcast with a little bit of Pilot Point news. There's not much Pilot Point news these days, but last week the Pilot Point ISD superintendent resigned. And I'll just read the press release to you in case you did not hear about this. The superintendent of the Pilot Point Independent School District has resigned from his position, according to a statement from the school board. The statement from the school board did not clarify a reason that Todd Southard's sudden resignation. To say that a few times fast, it's not as easy. Even though this is a professional broadcast, sometimes words are hard. But they stated they and Southard have entered into the agreement believing it is in the respective best interests and in the best interest of the district. The statement continued to read, on behalf of the entire district, the Board of Trustees expresses its sincere appreciation to Mr. Southard for his efforts while serving as superintendent of this great school district and its wonderful students, parents, and administrators, and for the many achievements and accomplishments of the entire district team during Mr. Southard's tenure as superintendent. Notably, they passed the first bond in the district in 18 years, increased starting teacher salaries from $43,000 to $500 to $50,000 in 2 years. They created the Pilot Point Police Department, successfully managed a $20 million annual budget, and created free all-day pre-kindergarten for all students regardless of income. The statement says the board will begin its search for a new superintendent soon. So there is your Pilot Point news for the day. I can barely figure out coaching changes, so superintendent changes is beyond me, but we do know that Pilot Point has struggled the last couple of years, having all kinds of crazy issues across the athletic spectrum. So who knows? Obviously, the new superintendent, some superintendents are athletic friendly and some are not. So something to keep an eye on as it relates to the District 4 3A report, perhaps in 2024 and coming up in the next couple of weeks. Something else that will be big as we'll release the numbers. Well, not me, but the UIL will release the numbers and the classifications of what each school will be in. We don't get the districting until February, but we'll know, for instance, that Brock is officially District 4A Division 2. We might find out that Paradise might drop to 3A Division 2. We may see where Gunner goes. So all kinds of information that we will get, and we might have a little bit of insight into what the District 4 3A, or whatever it will be called, report will look like next year. But as we mentioned in our open, and then there were two, We say goodbye to Whitesboro this week. Our good friends in Whitesboro. It's the earliest in our 3-year run that we have said goodbye to Whitesboro as they lost to Bushland this past week, 60-19. And Coach Fagan, and the article that our good friend Zach Duncan wrote was very effusive in his praise for the defensive line. Stated that credit to those guys, they do a great job and they're going to play football for a long time. Don't know if that's referring to this season or if the fact that they're going to be playing in college, but we do know that the defensive line for Bushland is really, really good, and this is going to be fun football as we start to break down the defensive battles, because both teams have really good offenses, both teams have pretty good defenses, and we see with Brock and in Paradise, and even go back into Brock's non-district schedule, when you have these good defenses, we're seeing a lot of 50, 60-point games right now, but then when you get those good defenses, all of a sudden those games are now in the 10s and 20s, and it completely changes the dynamic of the game, and we saw that with Bushland last year. Dawson Jaco had 307 yards on the evening, 2 touchdowns. Easton Fuentes, 3 first-half touchdowns running the ball. For the game, Bushland had 554 yards. They had a defensive touchdown. And Josh Reynolds, our coach for Bushland, really noted how great it is for Bushland to have so many offensive weapons. We've already talked about Dawson Jaco, Easton Fuentes. Cade Gavina had 11 catches for 115 yards. Tanner Adams, 8 catches for 100 yards. Slade Perry led the offense, rushing the ball 74 yards rushing. And Dawson Jaco, again, is not having to run the ball, and the defense is really setting the tone for Bushland. Bushland looks like a very scary team as they win 60-19. And looking at Whitesboro, we know that Max Parker got hurt last week, and I think that was really evident in the way this game went. If you look at the statistics, Colt Fagan was the leading rusher for Whitesboro. The freshman, 10 carries for 51 yards. Carter Sluter, 3 carries for 8 yards. And some of this is a lot of defensive sacks, but Clay Hermes, 11 carries for negative 10 yards, so held to 24-49. Part of that is the defensive line, but part of it is that Max Parker did get hurt in the game, unfortunately, and you hate to see your team and kind of the offensive game plan have to shift this late. We saw that with Austin Iglesias in the 3rd round last season, getting hurt. Clay, we say goodbye to Clay. 14 for 38, 217 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So a memorable way to look back at his 2023 season. Receiving, Brett Donaldson, 4 for 63 and 2 touchdowns. Carter Sluter, 5 receptions for 60 yards. We'll be saying goodbye to Carter and Brett, both of them seniors. But we will say hello to Colt Fagan as long as Whitesboro. I mean, we'll say hello to him anyways. We'll keep an eye on him for the next 3 years, regardless of what realignment does. But Colt Fagan, 2 receptions for 12 yards. So that's kind of that next batch of the Whitesboro Bearcat offense, but Whitesboro with another heavy graduation. The last 2 years have been very hard for Whitesboro to a lot of key players, a lot of key components to the team graduating. So we'll see how they continue to rebuild, but pretty much we know they're not going to have to go through Brock next year unless they schedule them in non-district for the next couple of years, and Brock will probably be punching up to 4A Division I, if not 5A Division II next year, given their scheduling philosophies the last couple of years. So Whitesboro, we say goodbye to them, 60-19, losing to Bushland. Also, Brock versus Muleshoe. Man, this is one of those games that you look at and you just have to tip your hat to Brock. 76-13. Looking at their offensive stats is very misleading because of how good the defense was and how good the special teams was. And we continue to highlight every single week, it feels like, how many good special teams play that Brock is playing right now. And just look at, for instance, you look at Colt Matlock. This is a player who had the trifecta this past week, having a punt return for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. So 3 touchdowns on the game. We had 2 interception returns for a touchdown. So 4 4 special teams and defensive touchdowns in the game. They only had 7 offensive touchdowns for the game. So of the 11, special teams and defense were doing it significantly. So this game was over at halftime. I think I saw it was 48 to nothing at the with 8 minutes left in the second quarter, 62 nothing at halftime. And at that point, we saw a lot of freshmen and sophomores playing for Brock. They did win the second half, 14-13. Just an absolutely dominant battle, dominant effort for Brock. Brody Woods, 8 of 11 for 156 yards and 3 touchdowns. And this is where it's kind of getting problematic. This is kind of like what we call the Gunter effect, because they haven't really had a play competition, and I would argue they're not going to be playing competition next week either. And it's going to all of a sudden hit when you have to play it. For Gunter, it's Canadian. When it hits, it's Canadian. Holiday does give a little bit of interesting dynamics to it, but it's really Canadian, where all of a sudden business picks up. And for Brock, I think it's going to be next week against Bushland or Paradise, the winner of that game. And business will definitely pick up in that game. And then potentially Malakoff or Whitesboro in that second bracket, the state semifinals, and then a team like Columbus in the state championship. But right now, they're not really getting those repetitions. They're really good runners. Brett Tutter, only 7 carries. Tyler Butler, had a big 45-yard run. Vance Guthrie, 5 carries for 28 yards. Brody Woods, 3 carries for 44 yards. So a lot of that endurance that you expect to have when it's time, when you're having to run 20, 25 times, they're not getting that opportunity to do. Now, Clyde will, as we talked about last week, will give them a little bit of, with Blake Carr, the really good quarterback, they'll have to slow him down. So I think defensively, they'll get a chance to have some repetitions. But we saw with Clyde and Peaster, Peaster was pretty much able to do whatever they wanted to against Clyde. So I expect that Brock will probably be able to do whatever they want against Clyde as well. Moving down to our other game, Dalhart versus Paradise. Can you believe that this game was actually Dalhart striking first? 46 seconds into the game, they hit a 66-yard bomb, and all of a sudden Paradise is losing 7-0. And to quote Michael Jordan, I think they took that a little bit personally because they just fired off 3 touchdowns to finish up the first quarter. Austin Iglesias with a 6-yard run. Aiden Winters caught a 29-yard pass from Austin Iglesias, and then Austin Iglesias with a 4-yard run. All of a sudden, it's 20-7. But Dalhart all of a sudden made it 20-14, and you're starting to see the score like that and go, what's going on here? As their quarterback Reed had a 1-yard touchdown. But then we got the Landon Hawley show, back-to-back big touchdowns, a 52-yard pass, and then a 28-yard pass to start off the third quarter. Isaiah Jennings with a 6-yard run. Austin Hawley with a 28-yard pass from Austin Iglesias. And all of a sudden, it is just kind of getting into the blowout side of things. Dalhart would not score in the second half, where that game was 27-14 in the first half, 34-0 in the second half, as Paradise with a big emphatic win over Dalhart, 61-14. Austin Iglesias with a very efficient passing game, 12 of 15. He did throw an interception, but did throw for 210 yards. Austin Hawley, 5 catches for 120. I said Austin Hawley. It's Landon Hawley. Sorry, Landon. Apologize for that. You deserve better, Landon, and I will opt to give it to you, Austin. I don't know who Austin Hawley is. It sounds like a great name, but Landon Hawley, our guy from Paradise, was the leading receiver, 5 catches for 122 yards, and Iglesias running the ball, just a special player. We're talking about Dawson Jaco, and we have Austin Iglesias, 2 of the most athletic quarterbacks in 3A, will be squaring off this week. He ran the ball 15 times for 106 yards. Dalhart, 2 turnovers in the game. Paradise with a turnover. That's probably going to be a big factor coming up in this game against Bushland. 61-14 is the final in this game. And you start to talk about these 2 games. We got Brock versus Clyde. I pretty much gave my analysis of that. I think that Brock will be a pretty big favorite over Clyde. How they do against a really good athlete like Blake Carr will be a big factor in the game. Will Clyde be able to score points? Will they be able to go score for score? Brock is going to be a big favorite in this game, but I think it'll be curious to see how much they start to push themselves in getting ready for the next round. So I don't think Clyde is going to make the mistakes that Muleshoe and Iowa Park did the last couple of weeks. And Brock, I think, will have to work for their yards. I think we might actually see a situation where their offense is closing in on maybe 500 to 600 yards in this game because Clyde is not going to be so easily stopped, and Brock all of a sudden is going to have to drive 70, 80 yards to get in the end zone. I think Brock is going to win this game 49-14, maybe 56-14, but I think they will have a little bit more repetition in this game, and I think that will get them ready for the regional final. Paradise versus Bushland is a true 50-50 game. Bushland, we talked about their defensive line being very good and so many offensive weapons, and having that bad taste in their mouth from last year where they lost to Brock after being up on Brock pretty big in the first half, I think is going to drive them on their side. On Paradise's side, one of the criticisms we've had of Paradise this season has been that they have been very Brock focused. And to this end, are they looking past Bushland? I don't think they're looking past Bushland, but I do think they will gain a sense of motivation knowing that they are just one game away from that rematch against Brock. Now, it's weird because if Paradise somehow beat Brock in the regional finals, I would probably put them at an underdog against either Whitesboro or Malakoff. I think Whitesboro and Malakoff in the regional finals. Whitesboro plays Whitney this week, and Grandview plays Malakoff. I had a chance to see Grandview, and Grandview doesn't have much of a defensive presence, and I think Whitesboro has very good both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Whitney plays a lot of shootouts, so I think Whitesboro will be able to, with their defense, slow Whitney down enough to get to the regional finals. And you got Whitesboro versus Malakoff, a true 50-50 game. I think the point I was trying to make as I get distracted in Region 2 talk is I actually like Brock over whoever comes out of Region 2, but I don't like Paradise over whoever comes out of Region 2, even if Paradise was able to beat Brock, because Brock is so state championship focused week in, week out. And one of the criticisms of Paradise is that they're focused on Brock. Now, if Paradise beats Brock, I think they've, kind of won their Super Bowl. They've kind of won that state championship, but Brock is on the big picture of winning that state championship. That's the way they're focused. And right now in the computer poll, as opposed to last year, Brock is currently the number one team in 3A Division I. And whereas last year, I actually see Brock getting better each and every week, and that's, I think, has to be an exciting thing for Brock, because last year, it was the mistakes, and could they overcome their mistakes? Could they overcome their own shortcomings? Now we're seeing them just be dominant in all phases of the game. Their special teams has come to life. Their defense is generating the turnovers. Their offense is efficient and not making mistakes. So I really like what I'm seeing out of Brock. But I think of that Brock Paradise game and how that game was in the teens in the score. And I think of Bushland and Paradise, and it's going to be a defensive slugfest. I don't think this game, I think the higher the score gets in this game, the more likely Bushland is to win this game. I think if Paradise is able to keep this game in the teens or early 20s, they should be able to gut out, 5 to 8 point win. And it might come down to these 2-point conversions. One of the things we talked about with Paradise all year is their kicking game has been a little suspect, and they go for 2-point conversions a lot, but sometimes they do it strategically. They like to get up 8-0, and I think if Paradise can, whenever they do score, get up 8-0, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Bushland to match them score for score and conversion for conversion. And I think they could get a little bit ahead of the curve. But of course, the 2-point conversions giveth, and the 2-point conversions taketh away. So if they get behind the chains and all of a sudden we're now up 6-0 instead of 7-0, that could be it. That's a strategic thing. I wonder what they're talking about in the Paradise locker room when it comes to that, or the Paradise coaching office when it comes to the 2-point conversions as it relates to this game. For Bushland, it's going to be about that offensive consistency. Where are they going to find the advantage? Because we talked about so many different offensive weapons they have. You can't slow everybody down, and it's just short passes at times. But hit short passes that could be broken with the speed that they have on the edges to the house. And I think we're actually going to see, we've talked about Austin Iglesias on the offensive side of the ball. I think Austin Iglesias on the defensive side of the ball is really going to be a key contributor. We know Paradise's defensive line and Bushland's defensive line are the heart of the team. So is Bushland going to be able to take advantage of that mid-range passing game between the safeties and the linebackers? We actually saw Coppell against Jesuit, a 6A game, where Jesuit did find that hole between the linebackers in the secondary, and were able to exploit that for a couple of touchdowns before Coppell was able to slow that down and make the necessary adjustments in the second half. So can Bushland find that hole, or will Paradise's linebackers be able to cover those short routes and give them the defensive advantage? And then for Paradise, not having to give up the special teams play or the defensive touchdown that Bushland was able to get on Whitesboro this past week. They got to just keep it an offensive game where it's their offense scoring and Paradise's offense scoring. And if they get a bonus touchdown from special teams or defense, that's not really what Paradise has done this year in any numbers. I think that's what would get them to a 2-score win, but I think Paradise is a 5 to 8 point favorite in this game. It's going to be fascinating. I wish I could go see it. Unfortunately, with the timing of the game, and I don't know how many more games we're going to have out in Vernon at some point. If Brock and Bushland play each other, we might have another game out there in Vernon. But I wish I could see that game, and maybe Brock and Bushland, if that is the regional finals, we'll have to find our way up somewhere around 287. But I do think we'll have Paradise against Brock and the rematch. And, of course, when there is a District 4 3A rematch, a 4 3A regional final, the professor will be there. So thank you for tuning in to the episode 15 of the District 4 3A report. And I know our friends at pilotpointbearcats.com might have a stinger about our opening news story to kind of share what they think about the future and the direction of Pilot Point after this superintendent shakeup. And if you are a superintendent nominee or a superintendent to be, if you're in that track, send them an application. You never know what Pilot Point might think. That they enjoy the youth, and obviously you are of high intelligence if you're listening to the District 4 3A report. So for all of our friends at Pilot Point, like, subscribe, comment, give us something here as we are winding down the football season this year. I'm the Professor Matt Diggs, and we'll see you down the road.
Now, baby, listen, baby, don't you treat me this way, 'cause I'll be back on my feet someday.
Don't care if you do, 'cause it's understood. You ain't got no money, you just ain't no good.
Well, I guess if you say so, I'll have to pack my things and go.
That's right, hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
Well,
Don't you come back no more.
what you said?
Don't you come back no more.
I didn't understand
Don't
it.
you come back no more.
You can't mean that.
Don't you come back no more.
Oh, now, baby, please.
Don't you come back no more.
What you trying to do to me?
WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. It's a day that I'm certain my guest at this time will not forget. I'm talking about the former Intercontinental Champion of the world, Macho Man Randy
Nothing
Savage.
means nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing means nothing.
Nothing means nothing. What do you mean by that?
More, I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah. Macho Madness, yeah, has got more to offer than President Jack Tunney thinks that I got, yeah. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. Cards stacked against the Macho Man Randy Savage in WrestleMania 3. Yeah, let me say it, yeah. Let me say it out loud. And let me point to the president of the World Wrestling Federation that the Macho Man Randy Savage is not happy with your decision, yeah. I am the cream in the World Wrestling Federation.
Wait a minute,
and there is no doubt about it, yeah. You, Mean Gene Okerlund, you know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh. Wait a minute, though, Randy. I've got to ask you very seriously. Do you blame Mr. Jack Tunney, the distinguished president of the World Wrestling Federation, for Ricky Steamboat being the Intercontinental Champion today?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Outside interference, yeah. In my moment of glory. Yeah, now I'm living in a nightmare. And I am the cream. And now, not only the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship belt must fall, but the World Heavyweight Championship belt. Because Hulk Hogan, yeah, I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better than the Macho Man Randy Savage. On balance, off balance, doesn't matter. I'm better than you are, yeah. And I'm talking to everyone in the World Wrestling Federation. And I'm even talking to President Jack Tunney, yeah. I'm on my way. And nothing is gonna stop me. Nothing's gonna stop me.
You know, just out of curiosity, Randy, and I certainly don't want to diminish your tremendous God-given talents, but I'm very curious. I haven't seen Elizabeth lately.
Yeah, she's on the outside of the ring. Does she interfere in matches? Yeah. Nothing, zero, yeah. Pure athlete, yeah. And I've been, maligned from the top to the bottom. And because they can't handle the Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream of the crop, nobody does it better.